Hey everyone, and welcome to Test Driven Laravel. Let's get started. So the very first thing we need to do when we're building a new application like this is figure out what we're even going to build first. What's the very first feature that we're going to build? What's the very first test that we're going to write? How are we going to kind of get the ball rolling and build some momentum so we can keep moving forward building this application? So TicketBeast, the application that we're building, is a platform for concert promoters to list concerts and sell tickets to their concerts. So they can add a concert, get a public link to that concert, share it around on Facebook, on Twitter, whatever, and people can use that link to get information about the concert and purchase tickets. So the way I normally try and make this decision about what I should build first is by trying to figure out what is the most important thing that the application needs to do. And at the core of it, the most important thing that TicketBeast needs to be able to do is allow people to get information about concerts and purchase tickets to those concerts. Allow concert promoters to sell these tickets. So I think we could say that the most important feature is just purchasing tickets. Now, when we look at a feature like purchasing tickets, we have to think about what else needs to exist for people to actually be able to purchase tickets, right? So for someone to be able to purchase tickets to a concert, that concert's going to need to be in the system somehow, right? So we're going to need something like being able to add concerts to the system, because if we don't have any concerts, well then no one can buy tickets to those concerts. Now, if we're going to add concerts to the system, we probably want to make it possible for people to edit those concerts. It would kind of suck if you put up a concert and you got some of that information wrong and people were buying tickets and there's nothing you could do to change it. So editing concerts seems like an important feature. Another feature that might be important is being able to kind of control when a concert is visible, like when it's published, something like publishing concerts. Because imagine a situation where tickets for a concert were supposed to go on sale at midnight on December 1st. It'd be kind of a bummer if the concert promoter had to sit on their computer at 11:59 at night, adding all this information and trying to hit save at just the right time so that the tickets go on sale at the right time. It'd be nice if they could just get the concert in the system and then go and publish it when they're ready. Now, on the topic of promoters adding and editing and publishing concerts and stuff, that kind of implies that promoters need to be able to get into the system to do that. Like maybe they need accounts and stuff like that. So we're going to need something like, logging in as a promoter. And for someone to be able to log in as a promoter, they probably need to have an account. So we probably need something like, creating accounts for promoters. And now the tricky thing about this is like with a system like TicketBeast where you can go in and create concerts and start taking people's money, we probably don't want to just open the floodgates and let just anyone use the system to create concerts and take people's money and sell tickets and stuff. Because what if some guy just, creates a concert for a fake event and people start purchasing tickets and he just keeps all the money and then, disappears into the ether? It would be nice if we somehow had an ability to vet these promoters and make sure that we're only working with people who we trust that have a track record for actually being, promoters in the city that they are working in. So ideally, we want some sort of way to maybe invite promoters to the system. So only people that we've had a discussion with and kind of determined, yeah, you're someone that we want to be able to use the system actually has access. So before anyone could create an account, maybe we need to build the ability to, invite promoters into the system. And now speaking about promoters, being able to take people's money and stuff like that, we have this whole idea of purchasing tickets in place. But for someone to be able to purchase tickets and have the promoter kind of receive that money, then we need to somehow build some sort of integration that will allow them to get that money. So ideally, what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to facilitate the sale of a ticket and take some sort of fee for facilitating it, like a percentage of the tickets, and then all the rest of that money should go directly to the promoter, right? So before we allow people to purchase tickets, we probably have to build out this integration with Stripe Connect, which is a platform that allows you to kind of funnel money into someone else's Stripe account. So we need to do that if we want to be able to support direct payouts to our promoters. So this feature set seems like kind of a reasonable place to start, but the mistake that I see people make when they look at this is they think, okay, well, in order for someone to purchase tickets, we need to have this done. And that means we also need to have this done, and 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 so on and so on. So you look at it and you think, okay, now that we've kind of planned this out and figured it out, the very first thing that we should build is inviting promoters, right? Wrong. This is a common mistake that I see people make, and it leads you down this path of kind of getting stuck in the weeds, building all sorts of features that aren't critical to the core of the application just because you're kind of working towards some sort of end vision instead of really focusing on the value that you're trying to deliver with the application that you're building. So I think that the process we've taken so far is correct, but there's another step that people commonly skip. And that step is going through each one of these features and figuring out, do we actually have to build this feature? Or is there another way that we can accomplish what this feature does without actually having to write the code yet? Now, since every feature here kind of depends on the features before it, the trick is to work backwards. So we start with the thing that we know we need to build, and then look at the thing that comes before it and try and figure out, do we actually need to build that, or is there another solution? So integrating with Stripe Connect to do direct payouts. Our goal here is to be able to pay our promoters whenever we sell tickets, so they get their cut of the ticket sales. Is there any way that we could pay promoters their cut of the ticket sales without writing code to integrate with Stripe Connect? Well, sure there is, right? We could just take people's money, put it into one big Stripe account, and then maybe once a week, someone who works at TicketBeast can reconcile all that information and cut a check to every promoter and be like, here's your cut of the sales. So there's a way that we could do this manually without having to write code. So we don't have to allow that to stop us from moving on to the purchasing tickets feature. Now, what about publishing concerts? Making it so that a promoter can go in and hit a button to say, like, make this concert live. Well, again, someone working at TicketBeast could do this for them. They could say, hey, tickets go on sale at this time. And, someone working for us, a developer who has access to the database, can just go in and flick some sort of field that kind of says, okay, well, this concert's published now. So that will kind of allow us to avoid building out this whole UI. We'll probably still have to build the kind of concept of a concert's being published or not published pretty soon. But actually building out that as a feature for promoters to interact with, maybe not as important as we think. So let's skip that one for now. What about editing concerts and adding concerts? Well, we're kind of imagining a situation here where a promoter can log in, maybe click some button to add a concert, get like a form, fill out all the information about that concert and save it, and then be able to navigate back to it at some point to make changes and save those changes. Is there any other way that we could get concerts into the system without actually giving promoters access? Well, one way that we could do that is to just have the promoter send us an email. They can send an email to me as the developer on the system that just says, hey, Adam, I have a concert coming up on December 1st. This band and this band are playing. It starts at this time. This is what it's going to cost. This is how many tickets I have available, yada, yada, yada. I can add all that to the database manually. SQL Pro is kind of the greatest admin interface of all time, if you ask me. And I can just put that in there for them, shoot them a reply, you're good to go. And now the promoter didn't have to interact with the system at all. Again, ideally, we do want to have all this stuff in there so promoters can actually do it. But we're just trying to figure out ways to prevent these things from getting in the way of us working on the most important feature, which is purchasing tickets. I'm pretty sure if a promoter had to choose between being able to sell tickets to their concert or being able to add concerts to the system themselves, they would choose allowing people to purchase tickets over and over and over again, right? So if we can give them some way of getting concerts into the system, even if it means us doing that manually, as long as they can sell tickets and get paid, they're going to be happy, and we can improve on that as we go. So adding concerts and editing concerts doesn't matter anymore. Now, what about logging in as a promoter? Well, since we've kind of been able to eliminate all the things that a promoter actually needs to be able to do in the system, we don't need to allow logging in as a promoter to get started, which means we also don't need to allow promoters to create accounts, which means we also don't have to worry about creating a whole sophisticated system for generating invitations to send to promoters that they can accept and stuff like that. So by thinking about what are ways that we can kind of solve these problems without code, we've been able to focus on just the purchasing tickets functionality and allow us to do that first instead of worrying about everything else. We'll definitely have to do all that stuff down the road, but by taking the step of figuring out alternative solutions to kind of some of these problems, we've come up with an MVP version of this that we can build where the main feature that we actually have to write in code is just allowing people to purchase tickets and get tickets to these concerts. It means that we're going to have to add the data manually to the system when a promoter asks us. It means that offline, we're going to have to cut checks to promoters and stuff like that. But that doesn't really matter because it's going to let us focus on the actual core value of the application sooner, get it launched sooner, and iterate on it as we go. So the next thing that we actually need to figure out is, what are we going to test first? What is the first test that we're going to write? So if we have a section here, what should we test first? And think about this purchasing tickets feature. What is kind of involved in purchasing tickets that we can break down into separate steps and figure out how to test? At the end of the day, purchasing tickets is not going to be a very simple operation. We need to afford a couple things to the user. Things like, just viewing the concert listing to kind of just see information about it and decide, hey, is this a concert that I want to attend? We need to allow users to actually pay for the tickets, so entering like their credit card information and charging them. once someone's paid for tickets, we probably want to make sure that they can actually get their tickets so they can bring them to the event. So maybe the first version of that is something like view their purchased tickets in the browser. So they can just print off that page and bring that with them. And finally, probably it would be nice if we could send them an email confirmation so that if they ever need to get back to that link where their tickets are, they can click it and print it again. So maybe this will contain a link back to the tickets. And I think this is probably all the stuff that's really, truly necessary for purchasing tickets. So what I would do is look at these and kind of figure out what is the simplest thing in here that we could test first to try and get this system up in place. So we have kind of the structure of our application working, and we have some sort of boilerplate in place for getting our tests running. And looking at this very first chunk of that, which is viewing the concert listing, that seems like a reasonable place to start, because that'll force us to drive out some code that'll have these concerts in the system so we can pull concerts out and make sure that people can see the correct data for the correct concerts. And maybe from here we can work towards allowing people to view published concerts and not allowing people to view unpublished concerts. So I think this is what we're going to focus on first. And in the next video, we're going to write a test for this and kind of get some of this boilerplate in place and string our system together and get some momentum going with this TDD stuff.